Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
It's such a fascinating time for the industry. We were just talking about this on air on CNBC. We're heading into the upfronts, and we're in the midst of this Google boycott, including by some of your clients. And in a lot of ways, the Google boycott is the culmination of a lot of concerns and conversations about the state of digital advertising right now. Tell us why it makes sense for your big clients, including Coca-Cola and Johnson & Johnson, to be part of this Google boycott.
Well, the key to communicating with consumers as a brand is to have a high standard, and brand reputation is critical. To the extent your communication is being associated with something that's offensive, obviously that's not the way to build brand loyalty. So I think our clients and the industry were appropriately concerned with the efficacy of the work that's going out there, who's seeing it, and what it's being associated with. So the best way to get publishers and individuals to respond is to use money to basically affect change. And you know, we didn't take a whole boycott of it. Obviously, clients make a decision one-on-one. And some clients decided to do that, and some clients we've been working very closely with, and Google, to make sure that there's transparency and there's third-party verification. And they've made a lot of progress, and we think they'll solve this as much as they can to a point where we'll be comfortable again to work with our clients to again utilize YouTube and Google Display. So I think it's had an effect. But I think it's a very important medium, and it has great impact, and it's something that we want to make sure we solve.
We've seen your fellow ad agency CEOs take very different approaches. So on one hand, you have Sir Martin Sorrell saying it doesn't make sense to boycott because it's such a massive medium, such an important way to reach consumers. And then on the other end, you have Havas, which is basically doing an agency-wide boycott within this category. Where do you fall in that spectrum?
I think it's up to each client to make a determination. Our view was to work with our clients, see what impact, how we can help them, make sure that the issue is being dealt with, and to the extent we're comfortable and our clients are comfortable, then they're back. And to make a uniform decision for all our clients, I think, was inappropriate. And not to focus on it would be a mistake. So, you know, I landed in London Monday morning when this whole thing was breaking, and all they wanted to do was talk about it. And my response is very simple. We want Google to be accountable for where our media dollars and our clients' media dollars are being placed, and it's their responsibility to work with us to make sure that this doesn't happen. And they've done that. They're working very hard. I think you'll hear a speaker later on talk about what they've done. So as long as we're comfortable and our clients are comfortable, then they'll make their own determination.
We've talked in the past about the fact that there's this duopoly in digital advertising now. There's Facebook and there's Google. Maybe 6 months ago, I don't know how long it was now, last fall, we were talking about the Facebook measurement issues.
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the changes you've made, and how has that played out for you?
Yeah, look, when there's a duopoly, it's always, you know, you always root for someone else to keep them honest and have an impact. And Facebook obviously had to make some changes in terms of viewability and the efficacy of the work that's going there. And they've taken that on, and they've used third-party verification, which was at our recommendation. The problem with Facebook is we're using their data. So the next step is how do we verify their data that's being used. But I think we'll get there. Look, it's in everybody's best interest to make sure that the dollars are being spent where they should be, and they're being viewed, and they're having the effect and the accountability that we're looking for.
Do you think the fact that there's this Google boycott and there was a lot of noise around those Facebook measurement issues last fall, is that because these two companies dominate the space so much? Is this sort of a natural pushback against the behemoths?
No, I think it's business. You know, clients appropriately want to make sure that they spend a lot of money, and to the extent they spend that money, they want to make sure the return on investment is proper. We want to work with them to make sure that the effect and the return on investment is being properly calculated, and they're reaching the consumers that they intended to reach, not a bot. And yeah, I think it's totally justified to raise these issues. And I think transparency in the entire industry is an imperative.
So is it just a coincidence that this is happening right before the new fronts and upfronts?
Look, negotiating is negotiating. And to the extent there's an argument now that linear TV can say, hey, we don't have these issues, good for them if they try to use it to negotiate. I think it's temporary, and I think obviously Google will fix it, and certainly clients will come back. But yeah, there's no harm in using an opportunity in the marketplace to negotiate when you can, and I'm sure that's happening.
So what's your outlook going into the upfronts? Do you think that TV advertising will be able to make gains on this and other things?
Our Magna puts out a forecast, and our forecast right now is linear TV is pretty much flat. What will happen is you'll have inflation pricing, but you'll have a pullback. So in the end, it'll be relatively flat. And digital will be up 10 to 14%, which is consistent with what's been happening in the last couple of years.
So many of the TV networks, cable channels, have been investing in more technology to improve their targeting. Do you think that's going to make a difference? Does that make a difference to you when you're deciding about where to put your TV dollars?
Look, this is all about accountability, and the more measurement, the better the measurement, the ability to reach that consumer in an economic way. That's what this business is all about. So to the extent digital is easier and better to do that than TV, then obviously clients are going to be more interested in placing money there. To the extent there are issues there, they're going to go somewhere else. So our job, we're agnostic. We're totally agnostic in terms of where those dollars go. We just want to make sure that we're reaching the consumers in a proper way. We can measure it. And that's what our job is, to work with our clients to do.
I want to hear about your own investment in technology, but first I have to ask about advertising in two pretty popular platforms, one being Snapchat.
Right.
How do you find that ad experience, and what's your outlook for Snapchat advertising?
My ad experience on Snapchat, I don't use Snapchat.
Well, for your clients, You're not, I mean, you're not the
my
core
grandkids
demographic, yeah.
I actually had to sit down with my granddaughter to have her show me how to use Snapchat. Look, our input is, it's a very effective medium. It works. The problem, of course, is they're in the early stage of where Facebook and Google are, and that is we have to be able to measure, and right now we're not getting the ability to, on the transparency and the measurement on the effectiveness of the ads that are being spent on Snapchat. Eventually they'll get it. And frankly, I think it's healthy to have Snapchat grow and be a competitor, if you will, for ad dollars to Google and Facebook.
Now, Snapchat does give measures of how long people are engaging with an ad, what they're doing with it. That's not enough for you to know if the ad's really working?
At this point, we don't have enough data to really make sure that that's working. But they'll get there. Look, they're in the early stages. I remember when Facebook first came out. No one knew what they were doing and where those dollars were going. And if you think about the risk to your reputation as a brand, it's enormous. So you have to be very careful where those dollars get allocated. But right now, look, the age group is what, 18 to 34, and that's a pretty good market for most of our clients. So we want to be there. We want to make sure they get it right, and we'll work very closely with them to make sure it does come out right. And we're actually, we do these accelerator programs, and we just announced an accelerator program with RGA, IPG, and Snap. And we'll be talking about that in Cannes on the center stage. So I think it's a great opportunity to add to the tools that we have to reach consumers.
And so tell us what that means. What does it mean to have an accelerator program with Snap?
Well, accelerator programs are basically to work with startup companies or companies that are in need for business transformation. All the expertise that we can bring to the table working with that particular company, whether it be design, whether it be digital advertising, whether it be just business economics in terms of how they spend their money. And we have all these resources within IPG, and to work with these companies and bring in these resources, and then what we do is we take that and it gives an opportunity for our clients to work with these companies before they become an IPO. For example, what we did with Facebook when we first invested in Facebook. If you recall, we were an early investor in Facebook, and I remember me saying, why are we investing in Facebook? We're not a mutual fund. And I went back and said, give us a strategic reason to invest in Facebook. And we came back with a certain exclusivity in those days for 6 months to understand what Facebook was about. And I remember bringing in some of our big clients and sitting in the room and everybody being scared, like, oh my God, what can this do to our brand? Well, that turned out to be a pretty good investment for IPG. Aside from getting the first look at Facebook, you know, we invested a little less than $5 million and we sold it for about $375 million.
It's pretty good.
By the way, had I not sold it, it would be worth a lot more. But no one's second guessing me.
Still a good return there.
Right.
Going back to some of these other platforms, I guess first on Snapchat, do you feel like you need to put your clients there just because that's where the youth demographic is, and you can't, even if you don't know how well it's working, there's a sense of needing to have a foothold there for your brands?
Yeah, look, again, it won't be all in, because if we're not comfortable with the return on investment and how it's being viewed and what effect it is, then obviously it would be a mistake to spend all your dollars there. But yeah, we're working with Snap to develop those metrics, if you will, to make sure that our clients are getting the return on investment. This is all about accountability and measurement.
What's your stance on Twitter ads? How well do those work in contrast?
Again, that one has some work to do also. And look, I think the more the merrier. Remember, we are literally agnostic. We don't take any economic position in any of the digital ads and space. So when we represent our clients in terms of programmatic buying, we're agnostic. We have no economic interest in the inventory. So it doesn't matter to us where those dollars get allocated from, you know, as long as we're working with our clients to have effective advertising and content, that's what we do.
And you've been sort of focusing on this strategy, this approach to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, I think, frankly, I've always said this, I think there's a conflict if we're advising our clients where to spend their money and we have an economic interest in the medium that is being sold. So we intentionally only act as an agent for our clients, not as a principal. Now, we do have a barter business, which is separate, but on this type of business, we have no economic interest in where the money goes.
And does that in times mean you leave money on the table?
No, not at all. In fact, it's proven that we are buying better and more efficiently in the marketplace. And you know, what they make, I think, is short-lived. Clients don't like to have their advisors making extra money by owning content. And I think in the end, the transparency issues that were raised as a result of it will have a chilling effect on the use of that program.
Now, you've been investing quite a bit in technology for IPG. And also in sort of shifting the company, so it's not just an ad agency, but in a way sort of a consultancy on brands and on products. What is your vision for how IPG is changing?
Well, look, our responsibility is to have all the tools and resources available in the marketplace. Our basic tenet is we don't have to own data and technology. As long as we can, quote, rent it and have partnerships that give us the same reach and insights, then it's better for us to do that than own it. When we find that we don't get the kind of impact through partnerships and renting it, we will take economic investments in that or buy it.
So give us some examples.
Some of the ad tech stuff that we use, for example, we use programmatic buying, and we developed it totally organic. But some of the data stacks that we have, we felt that some of the third parties have better data stacks, so we would buy small companies that have those kind of insights. But we don't spend big dollars in these acquisitions. Our acquisitions in total for the year are anywhere from $200 to $250 million, and they're all strategic acquisitions. We're not missing any particular resource within all of IPG. We look at IPG as a resource for all of our businesses, and we use what is called open architecture, where our clients are entitled to the best of IPG on a client-centric basis. So if we bring in media, we bring in digital, we bring in creative agencies, all working together. and that includes data analytics. So just recently we announced we're going to be working on our data analytics on a global basis so that all of the resources within IPG will have access to that rather than the individual silos within our business.
And how does this play into sort of this measuring of online, the combination of online measurement and in-person measurement?
Well, I think they all work. And again, once again, we have to be in a position that we have hundreds and hundreds of data points that we have to use. And a lot of it is duplicative, but as long as we end up with a result that provides the reach, we're targeting the right consumer, and the right consumer is seeing it, and they're staying, their presence on that content is long enough to have an impact, that's okay with us.
As the consulting firms like Accenture get more into your business, how does that push you to get more into their business?
I don't know whether you saw what happened to Accenture today. They're not exactly in favor, which it probably explains why they're trying to get into our business. Their own business isn't doing particularly well. But they're system integrators. And the truth is they're already in those clients. I sit on the board of a number of companies, and when an Accenture or an IBM is in there doing system integration, they're there, and they're working with the C-suite. And so it's a logical extension of them because they need some continuation in terms of the relationship with those clients. So they bring in digital. Some of them, Accenture bought some creative agencies. But they can't offer the depth of resources that we offer, the creative capabilities that we have. Are they going to come up with a priceless campaign or because you're worth it? I mean, these are iconic campaigns, and you need special individuals on the creative side. And frankly, I don't see those individuals working for an Accenture. The other part of it is we bring in media, we bring in PR, we bring in experiential, we bring in digital, all working together. They just have the digital piece. So that said, there is a business transformation model that they have that we find very attractive. And we've already started some of our businesses, in particular RGA and Huge, have a pretty nice consulting business and business transformation, and we will be pursuing that across IPG assets because I think we bring more to the table on business transformation because we can actually execute on the business transformation.
But so backstage, you gave me a really interesting example, and I don't know if you're willing to share it up here, but this idea of basically helping companies create a new brand.
Absolutely.
To create a brand, actually create a physical product. It's not just about the marketing.
I mean, it is. I mean, so we have engagements now where big financial institutions, for example, are looking for new products. So we will work with the financial institutions to develop a product, take it to market, develop the technology that is necessary to make that product work. I mean, and that relationship with the client is really the type of relationship that we want to develop, and that is we're part of their business. We're not just coming in as a vendor to provide media buying or a creative campaign. So that's where I think this business is heading, and I think we have to do that to be competitive with all the different businesses that are trying to get into our business.
You've been doing some interesting experiential advertising, things that are really outside the box, and I love the example of the Lego Batman Chevy commercial.
Right.
I don't know if you have a clip here or if you could just tell us about it.
Yeah, we have a clip. I'll give you a little background on it because this is interesting in terms of how, McCann, working with Chevy, used research. We used a lot of analytics and research on where the Chevy brand was and what impact does it have in the marketplace. So we looked at the reputational brand of Chevy, and it was becoming, old line, not strong, and people were just taking it for granted. And we actually did some experiential stuff where we took the emblem off the cars, and you can see that they loved the cars, they loved all the technology, but you put a Chevy brand on it, and all of a sudden they didn't like it. So we decided, working with Chevy and GM, to develop a campaign to show how relevant the brand is and all the cool stuff that Chevy can do. So why don't we run, this is supposed to work, why don't we run the first reel that I have.
Batmobile is one of the world's most iconic cars. And for 75 years, it's been powered by Chevy engines. Problem was, nobody knew it. So we decided to change that. For the launch of the new Lego Batman, we partnered with Warner Brothers and Lego to not only integrate into the new, but also launch the new Batmobile just like we would any new Chevrolet. First, we manufactured it, building a life-size version using 344,187 Lego bricks, and teased its arrival at the North American International Auto Show.
All undercover, all under wraps.
Where we unveiled it to the world. We did a television spot with our current spokesman, Lego Act.
Hi. So, Chevy invited you to this focus group to ask you what kind of person you think would drive their all-new Lego Batmobile.
Well, it's all black. Probably someone with self-esteem issues?
What?
Yeah, screams loner to me.
Does it? I bet he's super outgoing and really popular.
Oh, okay. Well, what makes you say that, Batman?
Look at this. It's awesome. You look at the driver and you think, I totally want to be that guy.
Well, I think it's perfect for picking up the little ones from soccer practice.
Oh, come on.
The Batmobile also got its own catalog. Lego-sized outdoor boards. All of which led to Chevy.com, where every other Chevy vehicle got a boost from its 20,000 horsepower. And you could customize your own Batmobile, as long as it's black. The Chevy Lego Batmobile made its way into the automotive press, the entertainment press, the international press, the Batcave, and finally, the hearts of millions, who will wonder the next time they see a Chevy if it's Batman Batmobile.
I mean, that's awesome.
I mean, I never take credit for creative unless it's good stuff like that. But if you just look at that whole case study, it involves research, it involves PR, experiential, creative, all the stuff that we can bring to bear, which frankly, there aren't a lot of companies out there that can do it. So that's why I don't worry about the future of our business. Because we have the talent and resources to do that type of work.
But to me, what's most interesting about this is in this world where television viewership is up, but live television viewership is down. So you actually have a decrease in the number of live TV hours watched. You have so much noise out there, and it's so hard to break through the noise. And to me, this is an amazing stunt that it's so different than a traditional spot that it really, it lives on multiple platforms. You have this sort of real life experience element that it really breaks through. And it sounds like you guys are really trying to do a lot more of these experiential stunts because you kind of have to in this landscape.
Well, I wouldn't call them stunts. Well, look at the combination of TV, digital, all working together. You have to have a certain talent to be able to do that and bring that to life. And that's where the consumers are. And let's face it, TV is still very effective. It's not going away.
But people aren't watching as much of it live.
Well, TV is being watched. The issue is, what's the definition of TV? I mean, certainly OTT is growing rapidly, and the content that's on TV is on OTT, and does that count as TV or does it count as digital? So all of this stuff is coming all together, and frankly, that's why when I say we're agnostic, it doesn't matter where it is, as long as we can reach the consumers with a relevant message when and where they want to see it, and how, that's what's exciting about this business. And we have the resources to do all of it, and we do it on an agnostic basis for our clients. That's why this business is really at a very interesting point in time right now, because we're the ones who can put that all together and make sense of it.
So you put together the Fearless Girl sculpture,
right,
which I would say is another amazing stunt. Get some applause for Fearless Girl. For one of your clients. To me, it was such an amazing installation. It was such a powerful statement. And it took me a minute before I realized what it could do for a client. How did this whole idea come about? And why does it make sense for a client to put a sculpture like that in front of the NYSE?
Well, the results show why. But look, State Street was launching a new ETF that was investing in women-led companies, or a significant part of the leadership are female. So the task for McCann was basically, how can we get a message out there to show that, and which incidentally, we're strong believers in terms of the diversity and the impact of women have in our business. 40% of our board are female, 54% of our managers are female. So that's an important part of our business. And the question was, how do you communicate in Wall Street to show that women-led businesses are very effective and a good place to invest? So with that, I think we ought to, let's run number 2. So that one was only supposed to be temporary, you know, because of International Women's Week, if you will, and day. But the reaction to it was so strong that we were able to work with State Street and, frankly, Wall Street and New York City to get that extended for at least a year to be sitting out there, just to give you an idea of the demand and how impactful that kind of big idea can be in our business. So.
Were you surprised it had such an impact? I mean, the sculpture, in a way, took on a life of its own, and then this battle to keep her there. And in a way, it got bigger than the State Street message, and it became about something else. Were you surprised by that?
No. Look, I'm never surprised with some of the stuff that we do, frankly, as an industry, is just amazing. I mean, the creative aspect of our industry is really what's going to make this industry continue to be as powerful as it is right now. You can talk about all the experts and incidentally, the creative part of this was 2 young women in McCann, and I didn't know who it was who did this until I addressed a group on International Women's Day. We had a streaming event. And one of these senior individuals from McCann said, by the way, there were 2 young girls in our creative department that did that. And it was so perfect for International Women's Day to have these 2 young women create this. And I think there was an Ad Age article about them. But that's what our business does. It takes big ideas and use creative talent that we have. So I'm not surprised by it. Just look at all the things that we've done in the past. Look at what RGA did with Love Has No Labels in terms of working with the Ad Council. This is powerful stuff, and it takes unique talents and capabilities to do that. And that's what we bring to the table, which is why I feel so good about this industry.
And you've really been doubling down on the importance of diversity, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's good for business.
Yeah, I think that's the part of this industry that I was most surprised and disappointed in when I came to this business. The lack of female leadership in this industry is almost embarrassing. And we've done a lot. We hold our CEOs financially accountable for diversity goals. And this year, we've done a good job with women. We still have a ways to go, but we're nowhere near where we should with black women in our industry. So this year, IPG has launched a major effort to focus on black women in our industry. If you look at the leaders in our industry, our female leaders, 1% of the female leaders in our industry are black women. And that's insane, given who the marketplace is, who our clients are and who the consumers are that we have to reach. So we held a big session last Monday, with some great African-American women, and I've never seen a reaction to any one of our panels. So we're sort of doubling down on that, because I think we have to, as an industry, to do something about that. And that's, again, it makes business sense, which is why we're driving it.
Yeah, well, hopefully when we're back here next year, those numbers will tell a different story. Michael, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great.